Hi, hello, I'm Sam Harrison. I read, review, and discuss fantasy and science fiction books. And today I'm joined by my good friend Matt,
Hello, welcome everybody.
and we are here to give you a full spoiler discussion
I like
for
the fact you
Towers
got
of
that out in
Midnight.
the first time we've got that out in the first sentence as well. Well done.
Yeah,
Normally we say
full
that about
spoilers
halfway
here.
through.
Yeah, normally we're like, and so the Dark One kills Rand. Wait, sorry. So, yes, we're here to discuss Towers of Midnight, which is book 13 of 14 and kind of the 15th in the Wheel of Time. And this is an open spoiler discussion for everything except for
A memory of light.
Memory of Light, which is the final book. So we will be discussing things that we'll be mostly discussing this book, but things could come up from all of the books, including New Spring. I don't think I have any New Spring things to talk about, but it absolutely could come up. So let's go straight in. Matt, what did you think of the book?
I enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy it as much as The Gathering Storm.
Oh, exactly the same.
Okay. So I thought it was good. I think The Gathering Storm was brilliant. I think it's one of my favorite books in the series. It's probably certainly top three in the series. And I think the strength of The Gathering Storm for me was the focus on two main characters, which both have epic arcs, works really, really well, and just fabulous storylines. The bits didn't work as well for me in this book was I struggled a bit with the timeline.
I think Sanderson did, to be honest.
Yeah, so the whole Perrin storyline was obviously we were going backwards in time a bit because I got a bit confused about where Tam was at certain points. And then obviously we have a bit at some point during the book, I can't remember one, where Perrin sees Rand on Dragonmount in the dream and the final hunt begins. You're like, oh, okay, right, we're there. We're at that point now. The end of the Gathering Storm is here in the storyline. But then it felt like other storylines weren't necessarily on the same line, but that may just me getting confused. But anyway, so that. And the second part that I think for me, I'm sure it'll pay off in the end, but there felt like there was a lot more time spent with secondary characters. Like we had quite a bit of Galad, Garwin,
Rhoda Literalde.
yeah, Iterolda, that's the one. Yeah, indeed. And I'm not saying they were bad bits, but it just felt a little bit more disruptive to the flow of my reading experience. As The Gathering Storm, I felt was more focused on these are the two stories we're telling. Boom, 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 boom. I just felt a bit more bitty of we need to get everyone in place. There's all these little finding it so we got the final, so we can get the final book done. And I understand that, but it just disrupted my flow a little bit. So that was weird. But how about yourself?
Basically the same thought, I think. So obviously we don't often disagree, and I think that we're quite I agree with you pretty much wholeheartedly here, that the book was a lot more bitty. If you look at the after we finish chatting, have a look at the list of POVs that are in the book. Like almost no POV gets like a full chapter to itself. Most chapters are split across multiple different characters, and we do get some stuff that really feels like Robert Jordan in this book, which I did. Like the apples chapter 1 felt like definitively felt like Jordan. I'm going to try and go back and look and see which ones he wrote, because I know Sanderson saved specific chapters that were purely written by Jordan and spread them across all the books. So curious about that. But yeah, I think that there's a lot of this book doesn't feel as joined together. It's almost like a sophomore slump book from Gathering Storm, just happens to be book 13. And I think Sanderson wrote a great book here. that I really enjoyed. Like every single chapter I really enjoyed. But when I got to the end of it, I kind of felt like, oh, it's over. Rather than like, oh, I can't wait for the next thing. It was just kind of like, this was great, but the Gathering Storm ended on such a high.
Yeah.
And it kind of was like, to be continued. See you next week.
Yeah. I think this one still had a relatively strong finish. I think, and again, it's something I always think about is expectation and reality, what my expectations for the book was and what my expectations. My expectations was obviously sky high because Gathering Storm was incredible. And I think my expectation is there'll be a lot of focus on Matt and him and Noel and Tom and the Towers of Genji or Genji, whatever they're called. And there's not, like, he has a chunk at the end, which I really enjoyed, but actually the vast majority, it's really much more of a Perrin is probably the main character, and then there's lots of side characters which we get bits of, and then we get Matt's bit at the end. He does appear a little bit earlier on with Elaine and stuff, but I was a little bit disappointed with that because we didn't really have any Matt in the previous book either. There was very little Matt, and then I thought we'd get more of him in this book because it felt, to me, it felt like it deserved more space to develop because it was a really good part of the book, and a good storyline, and obviously, you know, Lorraine's back, and it just felt we didn't. It almost felt like it didn't have. I wouldn't say it was rushed. It wasn't like it doesn't remind me of when we go back to like the first book that Jordan, the very first Eye of the World, where we both agreed the finish was absolutely rushed. It felt like all of a sudden we got to finish this book, and like it just, everything seemed to happen, and people just started popping out and then dying off. Like, I don't know who that is or what happened, but they're dead now. It wasn't that. It wasn't like it was rushed. It just felt it didn't have enough. We didn't have enough space to breathe and really delve into that whole experience. It just felt a bit short, and just at the end of the book. But so I think my expectations was probably higher, and therefore it didn't quite live up to that. I'm not saying it's a bad book. I just think my expectations were probably maybe a little bit too high after the excellence of the Gathering Storm.
Oh, I absolutely agree. Like, and also a lot of my friends have said that this was their favorite of the Sanderson Wheel of Time books.
Really?
Which I found really interesting. But I think that because I had that expectation, I was expecting this to be better than Gathering Storm. And for me, like you say, it was like a bit. It kind of felt almost like stuff that was cut from the Gathering Storm, almost.
Yeah, the first
kind of must be.
Yeah, the first half does feel like it because again, it's back in like the whole Perrin bit. First half of the Perrin storyline is before the end of the Gathering Storm, so it certainly feels like that. I know you said you enjoyed every chapter. There was one chapter I didn't like. It wasn't because of what happened. It was because the way it was written, and it was a case of it was a Perrin and Galad chapter where they're on the field and we're hopping backwards and forwards between their two viewpoints for the whole chapter, like a few paragraphs of Perrin, a few because they were deciding on the same matter. And I was like, this could have been written two POVs, first half, second half, rather than I didn't like the jumping. It's just a personal preference, and it felt out of sync with the rest of how all the other books have been written. We've not really had that. Well, he's thinking this, and then he's thinking this, and he's thinking this, and he's thinking this. We normally had this is what Perrin's doing, this is what somebody else is doing, this is what somebody else is doing. It just felt a bit jumping backwards and forwards. But anyway, that was just a very minor point. But
yeah, no, I agree. I do really like there's Sanderson often does when he's reaching the end of his books, he'll do his Sanderlanche, and that's when he'll be like, okay, every chapter is like 2 or 3 points of view. In Wind and Truth, he basically starts the book with like every chapter is 5 points of view, and a lot of people really didn't like that. It didn't massively stand out to me there because it's something that he already does, but here, because Jordan never did it, because Jordan would always be like, this is the scene, you're going to see this scene from Perrin's point of view.
Yeah, and I think from my perspective, I could understand it at a conclusion where everything's happening at the same time and you need that timeline consistency of everything's flowing from this point. And we did have Jordan did do that at one point in a couple of books ago. We had that epic finish, and all the Forsaken, when Rand and Nynaeve,
and that worked really well.
And that worked really well. But because it was such a climatic moment that everything needs to be happening at that point. Like I said, as this Galad and I don't want to spend too long on it because it's not that important. But this Galad and Perrin chapter was very much. It's not a climatic scene. It's basically two men in their tents thinking about what the other person's thinking, and therefore what they're going to decide. And I'm like, that doesn't need to be back and forth.
That could have maybe been a half and a half. Do you know what I mean? Or like 2 chapters.
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't need to be back and forth. There's not the climatic conclusion that we need to see all this happening at the same time.
We don't need it to be as dynamic as a finale. Because we're, 2/3 of the way through the book.
Fabulous description, dynamic, indeed. That is spot on.
So there's some interesting stuff around the actual title of this book. So getting into the old facts.
Yes, go on.
So I always thought reading this book, even through actually reading the book, that it's saying the Towers of Midnight. And I'm like, okay, the Towers of Midnight are the towers that they go to, the Towers of Genji. I'm like, that's what this is referencing. But actually, the Towers of Midnight are something that is referenced earlier in the series and is a fortress in Shawnchan. And the Towers of Midnight are 13 towers that make up a fortress. And obviously this is the 13th book. And the Towers of Midnight is mentioned in the Prophecy of the Shadow, which is in the epilogue of this book. So interesting. But also in chapter 3, Egwene has a dream where she sees 13 black towers and they all get destroyed, and then 6 of them are remaining, and that is the 6 Forsaken that are remaining. So that's the intention, is to show that the 6 of them are remaining, and then one says one tower recovered and grew tallest of all, which is meant to be Moradin.
It's Nameless,
There's also a lot of towers in the book. So like the Kandori general guy whose son is the messenger. Can't remember where that book falls in the book, if it's the prologue or later on. But that is those are towers. Malkia has 7 towers that border the town. So there's a lot of towers in the series.
I didn't get those connections in my head. The Egwene towers falling, and I didn't get the reference for the 6 remaining and 6 standing and 1 growing. That makes sense with the Forsaken, but the towers and all that, I was sort of in my head assigning to the Trollocs in the Borderlands and the towers of the the cities, the towers, them falling, and the signals not being sent, and darkness descending on the world, midnight and darkness. And I think the Tower of Genji works because it's obviously quite dark in there as well.
That's exactly what I thought it was. I thought it was a Tower of Genji. I'd only looking up facts about the book to try and have something entertaining to say. Also, it was originally called Shifting Winds. That was the original title for the book, but Sanderson basically fought for it to be replaced and came up with the title Towers of Midnight. So Memory of Light was always going to be the title of the final book, and originally all 3 books were going to be called A Memory of Light : something. So it was going to be A Memory of Light : The Gathering Storm : Shifting Winds, and then the final book would have just been called A Memory of Light. But Sanderson pushed for it to be called Towers of Midnight, which I found quite interesting.
I think I read the book, as you said, there's a lot of towers mentioned as well. So I think Towers of Midnight works better as a title than Shifting Winds. Like,
Absolutely.
I'm not sure how Shifting Winds fits with the story we've read, per se.
Yeah.
Other than maybe Rand shifting from despair and darkness to the light. But
Mm.
yeah, I suppose you've got a few. But yeah, no, I think Towers of Midnight is a stronger title from my perspective.
Mm.
And then you
And
get the
one,
darkness. You get the darkness compared to A Memory of Light. You
yeah.
get this Towers of Midnight, Memory of Light. That works quite
Mm.
nicely. Anyway, sorry.
Everything is darkest before the dawn, as they say. But also a one final factoid that this is the 5th longest book in the series. So Sanderson is known amongst fans and the community for writing incredibly long books. But his books are actually only the final book is in the top 3 longest books in the series. Jordan wrote both of the longest. And A Memory of Light is actually only 9,000 words longer than the Jordan's 3rd longest book. So A Memory of Light is the 3rd longest book. But then you have, so I mean, I'll tell you now. So we start off with Lord of Chaos is the longest, which is funny because it didn't feel like the longest to me. I think Shadow Rising felt like the longest to me, and that is book the number 2 in the series. Then A Memory of Light, then Fires of Heaven, which actually no, the Fires of Heaven felt like the longest because of all the menagerie stuff, and then Towers of Midnight. So really interesting, and also The Gathering Storm is quite short. Looking at across the series, so it's shorter than Knife of Dreams. It's shorter than Either World, for example.
Okay.
It's quite interesting looking across the series. So I think Lord of Chaos and Gathering Storm and Knife of Dreams are probably my favorites in the series. I did really like The Dragon Reborn, and The Dragon Reborn is the 2nd shortest, which is another really interesting one. But anyway, shall we start to talk characters? Do you want to start with?
Yeah.
Should we start how the book starts? Let's start with Rand.
Yeah, we can start with Rand.
I love the apples chapter. I genuinely loved it. Like, I got goosebumps reading that chapter.
So can I say the beginning of this book is really, really good. There's a couple of bits. There's the Rand bit and there's the Lan getting his first follower bits. Is the first prologue, chapter 1 element of the book. And it's just such a great opening. And with Rand, like, I think Rand has gone from being like the first few books, yeah, he was the chosen one, but I didn't really care for him. But the way he's developed over the series, the things that happened to him, the voice in his head, Theron, and all of that has been building and developing, and the way he's sort of gone through, like, you know, such power, and then the despair and desolation and helplessness that he's felt, and being alone, but then being with Min, and the conflicts that he's had with the Aes Sedai, and all that. And, you know, we had that scene on Dragonmount at the end of the previous book where, you know, he's basically just like, you know, in the pits of despair. And then we have this, you know, him and the previous dragon become one effectively, and they see some sort of positive that, you know, we can change this line, we can story. Yes, we may die, but there's love, there's hope for the future. And then sunshine and rainbows break out. But the scene then going down, him walking down Dragonmount and meeting up with the farmer whose crop is basically just all just shriveled up and died. And then, like, as he's sort of talking to him, it's sort of, there's a rebirth, you know, as Rand is reborn as the hopeful dragon for the future. You know, the earth around him is reborn as well, and the hope for the future of mankind. It was just brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant, and I enjoyed, you know, the reaction of the farmer who just didn't know what the hell was going on and didn't know if he was coming or going, but was quite delighted in the end. I thought was a really great way of demonstrating. We get another scene later on when he goes back to is it Ebodar?
Ebudar, yeah.
Where obviously all the food's rotting, and then he just turns up and food is not rotting. They just haven't opened the right sacks. But his
I thought that
influence on
was
the
really
world,
good.
and it's interesting to compare to what in a previous book, I think it was Cabin Storm, where Cadsuane was banished, and she was like finding out what's happening and Rand's impact on the world, and everything was negative. There was no like his impact previously had always been positive and negative. Like things would happen, people survive, or there'd be like loads of marriages and everybody would be falling in love. There'd be lots of positive and negative. As in the last book, it was because of his, presumably because of his emotional state and where he was, everything that was coming out was negative. It was all negative. There was no, she couldn't find any positive side of the coin. And now it's flipped. It seemingly is all positive, and there doesn't seem to be the same negative impact. So, and I quite enjoyed that, I must say.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I just really liked this opening chapter. Like I say, it probably gave me goosebumps, and it reminded me of some of my favorite chapters in the series, like some of my favorite moments. Just seeing like that we know it's Rand, like we can work out it's Rand before this guy does, and like when he's like, oh, all of our apple trees are dead, basically we're all fucked, and then Rand's like, why don't you pick the apples again? And then like it's just like apples everywhere. I thought that was genuinely like really like magical. Like one of the things that I really like about the magic of the Wheel of Time is that Jordan's doesn't go out of his way to explain it. He's like, yeah, this is just magical. Like things happen because it's magic. And like one of the best things I think he's done in the whole series for himself is the Taviran stuff. So he's like, yeah, when there's a Taviran around, things just happen that make storytelling interesting and convenient.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just really, I really like that chapter. And I really liked him and Min going across, like basically like going across the towns in the world, and like going like, oh, I'm gonna fix this, I'm gonna change that, I'm gonna, I thought that worked really well.
It does, and we get like and there's such a stark contrast, as you say, from the previous book, where he basically deserts Ebudar to starve to death, and he's like, not Ebudar, is it Ebudar? I can't remember. He deserts one city basically to starve to death.
Yeah.
And then he goes to the Shanshan city, like they're living so much better here. Like I can't destroy it because actually they're not as bad a leader as I am being. And now we've got the flip side of actually, he is a beacon of hope for the future, even though his future may be very short. So yeah, I thought that was brilliant. I thoroughly enjoyed the opening. We'll come on to Rand later. Let's stick with Rand. So I think we then get Rand going down to Tar Valon and basically just walking in.
Yeah, that was brilliant.
Just casually strolling in to Tar Valon to speak to Egwene, the Armand seat. And again, I thought it was a very good scene. I like the fact that it's basically him and Egwene talking, and that none of the other Aes Sedai can speak because of the impact of Taviran, and him on them is like, no, no one else can actually speak. Which, for like the scheming side of the Aes Sedai, is a nice touch that they all just can't do that in his presence. And one bit I really like that is because Clay and Saidin, he says, that she should refer to him as Rand Sedai. That they're two halves of the same.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
So,
I like when he's like, someone says something like, "Oh, you should earn it" or whatever, and he's like, "I've been wielding the one power for 1,000 years," and like, there's Cadsuane, isn't it? Cadsuane says Cadsuane's 400 years old, and that's like a big thing that she's always like, "Look, I'm the oldest Aes Sedai," and he's like, I was wielding the one power before your like grandfather's grandfather was born. Like brilliant. And he talks about like the cumulative years of him and Lews Therin being Aes Sedai, and I thought that was really well done.
It's that, and what Sanderson has continued, what Jordan set up, and they've done really well, is that melding of Rand and Lewis Theron as one. We've gone from, Rand as a town country boy, Rand and seemingly going mad, and the voice appearing, and just losing his mind, and who's who, and what's Lewis, and then this sort of melding of actually they are one. They are the Dragon Reborn. They are truly a Dragon Reborn. It's worked so well over the series that trend that you buy into it, that now that he sees himself as that being rather than just Rand, which I think is fascinating, and it leads to some great bits of him just pulling rank over everyone, but in a polite but forceful manner, that he is who he is, and no one can really touch him, so deal with it. But he's not the aggressive authoritarian that he was becoming, but he is going to do what he has to do, which leads to him telling Egwene he's going to break the seals and release the Dark One. And she's like, "Oh my God, don't do that. That's a terrible idea." And I think he doesn't necessarily explain himself greatly at that point. I think a little bit more explanation may have helped. I'm not sure Egwene would have come round, because she's very much now and she's had a great arc as well, but she's very much now of the Aes Sedai persuasion that the Aes Sedai need to wield influence over Rand. Control might be a bit strong, but need to wield the influence over him rather than
they need to guide him
as
and channel
partner.
him.
Rather than seeing him as a partner, the two halves of the same. So, but it did feel like maybe a bit more explanation that, with Egwene, that, Min had a vision, and actually from a practical sense, if you're going to battle, you want to choose the time and the place, then by breaking the seals, you choose the time and the place. As if you let them break whenever they break, then you don't have that level of control. But that's just my point of view.
I think the interesting thing here is that Rand has really come round to the idea that Jordan has been pushing the entire series, which is that when men and women work together, that's when they're strongest. And he's come round to that point, but Egwene isn't ready to see that. And I think a lot of that has got to be that her authority has been so challenged and so difficult to establish, and I think that she sees that bringing in the Asha'man is ceding that authority again. And I'm really interested to see, because I have to assume that Egwene and Rand will be major points of view in the next book, because Rand only has less than 1% of POV time in this book, but his impact is felt really strongly because of mostly through Min's points of view. It's so funny that it very clearly Sanderson is look, I know he's got 3 wives, but I like this one, and so this one is the one that I'm going to give all of the attention and time to. But then what I find is really Min and Rand are very much the couple, and then Elaine's obviously bearing his children, and we'll come on to Elaine in a bit because that's the whole thing. And then we've got Avienda as a separate one, and we'll come on to her because she has some great scenes in this book, even if she's by herself, and we'll come on to that. So Rand's impact on the world is incredibly positive, but I feel he doesn't explain himself greatly at that point. But fine, it probably wouldn't have been agreed. And then obviously Egwene then trying to turn everyone to stop him doing it, trying to create her allies. Like you say, we don't have a much more of Rand from his perspective, but we do have an epic scene with Rand when he goes and helps out Ituralde. Yeah, that was fantastic.
In the Borderlands. And this is what I mean, we have a lot of bit pieces. We've got Ituralde who Rand has sent to the Borderlands to basically fend off the Trollocs who are descending on force. And just while I think about it, Trollocs, I think it's in the prologue, there's a bit of Padan Fane, basically raising zombie Trollocs. Which is really interesting. I'm fascinated to see what part they play in the final battle.
Absolutely.
Anyway, that's basically all we see of it. But anyway, it's interesting. So Ituralde is doing obviously a masterful general, managed to hold back the Trollocs for a while, but the town that he's defending. I can't remember the name of it. Begins with an M, I think, in the Borderlands. But anyway, they won't let him in because he's an invader in their territory. But it turns out that the leader of that town is actually a dark friend. Anyway,
that guy was great.
Yeah, that was great. But he gets saved by one of the Borderlanders and brought in and whatever else. But then Rand turns up and sort of, I wouldn't say apologizes, but then basically goes out and just wreaks havoc on tens of thousands.
Yeah,
Maybe hundreds of thousands. I don't know how many Trollocs he kills, but he just walks out by himself and just obliterates.
Yeah, fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. One of the best. Like, Sanderson is so good at writing these like epic explosions of power. Like, he does it a lot in his series where he will pit a like extremely powerful character against a huge horde of, you know, complete nobodies, and the way that works is just so fantastic. I think this is like maybe his best version of it as well across all of his books, because Rand is so powerful beyond the characters that he normally writes, which normally are kind of powerful but with limits, and he's just like no limits for Rand. Rand can literally do anything. And you know, especially with the ter'angreals he has, and sa'angreals and ungreals and whatever they are, like, absolutely fantastic scene. And I really liked, like, I think, you know, we may as well talk about him kind of here, I guess, but like Rhoda Literalde, I thought he was fantastic. Like, he was the big surprise, like, wow, I really like this character. I find him really interesting. Because he's one of the great captains, of which we have. It's him, Gareth Bryn, Bashir, and there's one more, I think, but I can't remember who the other one is.
I remember we got those three, but yeah, I don't know who the other two are. I mean, we may have been told, I can't remember. But yeah, Literalde is really, really good character. I like the fact that we see his tactical nous as well as his people nous, and we see the little tricks he plays when he's massively outnumbered, but maximize, you know, enemy casualties and minimize his own casualties.
Yeah.
You know, we really see an incredible tactical genius really at work, which is really nice to see. And I'll echo your sentiments. What Sanderson, what I'm finding in these two books is, and you're right, you've pointed out really nicely, is the epic sort of action-packed climactic fight scenes are really, really good. And they may not be in the book, but you know, you got around. We obviously had, you know, Egwene in the tower with the Sean Chan in the previous book, but these epic sort of action movie-esque fight scenes he does really well. And Jordan can do a really, really good fight scene, but it's not quite the same. It doesn't have the same, like, it's still intense and lifelike, but it doesn't necessarily have the same sort of, I suppose it does still have a blockbuster feel. Like, I'm thinking back to like Do My Wells, still had that massive blockbuster feel, you know, of the Asherman just rolling death on everyone when they're first out. So, but it was he used it sparingly.
Yeah.
As Jordan, and probably because we're getting towards the climactic end of the books of the series, you know, it is much more frequent use of that side of, you know, blockbuster action within the books, which I'm quite enjoying. I'm not saying it's negative. I'm just saying it's an interesting, you know, we see the differences. Like, Jordan could do it, but use it sparingly as it's more frequent over the past two books. But yeah, Rand is absolutely immense. And, you know, I pity the Dark One who's got to face him, really.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a good section. And yeah, we can't talk about Rand forever. I feel like he's got 2% of page time.
The only other thing he does,
half an hour on him.
Yeah, the only other thing he does is he brings the Borderlanders. So we have the prophecy of the Borderlanders, who will basically turn up and just slap him across the face. or punch him in the face and break his nose and whatever else they do to him. And I'm like, and as he says, it's a good chance I didn't come meet you in the last book because I would have obliterated you all. And like, well, our prophecy said if you tried to do that, we'd have to kill you. Like, I'm not sure you've done that, but okay. So, and that's why they'd gone to farm adding, so he couldn't use his power. But then I'm like, there's ways around that. And plus he could access the one power, the true power.
The true power,
so does farm adding really stop that? I'm not convinced. So it's good he turned up. But I'm quite enjoying seeing, because we saw like their prophecy, we saw prophecy from the shadow, which you mentioned a little bit earlier about the towers, and we started seeing these other pieces. And we've seen like other ones from like, you know, the Coromor and the Caracan and all that. But I'm curious as to how they all flow together and whether they all work.
Do they agree?
Yeah, do they actually? Because like it feels like there's bits that maybe don't agree, but actually I've not noticed, and I may have just missed it because there's a lot, any particular definitive contradictions that say, well, that can't happen, and that if that happens, that can't happen. But it feels like it could all happen. It'll be interesting to see how he ties it all up. I'm quite curious about that. So
I feel like I know we talked about this before, but the like interview with Jordan at the end of, I think, Knife of Dreams, where he talks about, he's like, our world isn't, you know, on a cycle of reincarnation. He's like, but what would your life be like if you were in a world with a predestined fate and a cycle of reanimation and all that sort of thing? And I thought that was quite revealing in terms of how he thought about the books, and looking at his kind of initial idea and point of view on this, like the wheel and the cycle and the re-experiencing of these old tales and things like that. Like, I do think that I would imagine that all of these prophecies are legit and they all agree in different ways. Like there's a thing where the Seanchan one says that the dragon will bow before the crystal throne, and it's like, but what's that going to actually mean? It's like the Aes Sedai would, you know, they can say stuff, but it doesn't mean what you think it means. And I think that's maybe even giving us the hint that, like, don't trust these prophecies because they sound like they're one thing, but is he kneeling before the crystal throne so that he can destroy the palace by touching the ground? You know, like, these are the things that I think. This is what I'm always thinking as I'm reading these prophecies. I'm like, something's going to happen here. Something's going to happen.
I agree with you. Yeah, is he? You know, it feels like they will all, and I kind of hope that they all work. That they all have their moment, and actually it does all work. And obviously we'll see in the next book whether it does. But because I think that would be, I mean, the ability to write that and actually create a story and create the prophecies and make it work, it would be quite remarkable. So I'm curious to see what it does. But I think, that's probably enough about Rand.
Yeah. I mean, I trust Sanderson. Of any writer currently writing, I trust to nail this prophecy stuff, because he's such a plotter. He will, before writing these books, I guarantee you he will have read all of those prophecies and been like, every single one of these has to come true somehow. Because that's just the kind of writer he is. And he was a huge fan of the series.
Yeah, I know. He was a massive fan. Because I listened to, at the end of the audiobooks of the ones he wrote, he does the interview.
Oh.
Rather than Jordan. So it's worth listening to. It's quite interesting.
I think you can see it in Gathering Storm how much of a fan he is, because he's like bringing up all this obscure stuff, and like when he takes us back to Falmer to meet with the Seanchan, like Jordan wouldn't have done that. Like Rand would have just met the Seanchan where the Seanchan were, but like bringing it back to Falmer is just that kind of full circle moment that Sanderson is fantastic at. But yeah, you're right. We'll move on. Shall we, Perrin?
Yeah, I think there's a good point about Perrin, actually, as we're talking about prophecies, because the prophecy of the
Mm,
shadow says that Perrin will die, or
mm,
equivalent to that. Again, we have to check the exact wording of it, but it gives them the impression that he will die. And
mm.
what we find out at the beginning of this book is that Grendel isn't actually dead,
Yeah,
that she
that
escaped.
was good.
That was good. But Arangar slash Halima did die.
Yeah,
So she was still
great.
there, and she's like, well, Rand doesn't know I'm alive, but so send me somewhere else and we can catch him out later on. So obviously she's
Mm,
sent off to kill Perrin, and she's given a dream spike.
that was a really cool. Like, I just really like like saying the intersection of the like sci-fi tech with from the past, like the dream spikes. I think dream spikes are just kind of cool.
Yeah, I agree, and I like the fact that it's real world and dream world
Mm,
impact as well. That we see it
absolutely, yeah.
across both elements. But yeah, but I thought Perrin, obviously the main character of this book, I would argue, with Matt probably the second one. Um,
Mm,
there's a lot of Perrin. There's a lot of Perrin and Galad. Basically, Perrin and the White Cloaks meet. Galad, I think Galad has quite an arc in this story. Because he's very black and white, and then through his interactions with Perrin, Morghese reveals herself because Galad spots her serving tea.
it's been a long
Um,
time coming.
yeah, it's been a very long time coming, but that's now happened, which is good. Um, and there's a whole trial because they're going to do battle, but then they basically have a trial for Perrin for killing the two White Cloaks back in like book 2, book 1, whenever it was, like right at the beginning of the series. I can't actually remember how long ago it was. It feels like a long time ago.
Mm,
And also for Supposed King Bornhold, which we know he didn't do, and eventually that sort of comes out through the story. And I thought the trial was fine. I think it was useful for Perrin as a character to, like, this book seemed to be him coming to terms with the actions he's taken and who he really is. Finally, because we had like Perrin books 1 to 3. He went to Two Rivers battle. Is that Dragon
that's
Reborn?
book
Is
4,
that book
yeah.
4? So 1 to 4 is probably my favorite character.
Mm,
It's a bit different from the others, and then the Two Rivers stuff was just
yeah,
epic and
really well
superb.
done.
And then we have this whole middle part of the series where he's basically Fael gets kidnapped and he's just pining after Fael, and that's all his focus is on. And
Yeah.
he doesn't really develop anywhere whatsoever. He's just obsessed with saving Fael, which I understand. Yep, the woman he loves, absolutely fine. But from a character development point of view, we don't get anything. And in this book, we seem to like try and crush everything for Perrin, because we get a little bit at the end of, oh god, was it the book we both hated? Not hated, the worst book of the series, where he gets rid of the axe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Winter
A little bit
Sky, is
of
that? No. Path of Daggers?
I think it's part of it, I guess.
There's a lot of books.
Or was it? Oh, I can't remember.
No,
Anyway,
it's Twilight.
Crossroads
Something
to
of
Twilight.
Twilight.
Crossroads to
Yeah.
Twilight. Yeah. So
Rubbish.
he goes for the hammer, which can both create and destroy, rather than the axe, which is just about destroying.
Hmm.
But in this book, we get a lot more. He like faces up to what he did when he lost control and became a wolf, and we have him and Hopper spending a lot of time in the dream world of him adapting to the dream world and understanding that he is, the wolf is part of him, but it's not necessarily a controlling factor. Yes, he has to be careful, but actually it's within his control and it's a part of him, and to sort of embrace that side of him without necessarily having to lose control, because we had that again way back. We had that person we saw basically in a cage in a little town who had basically gone full wolf and lost all control, and we actually meet them in the dream world.
Yeah, I like that.
And I really like that because we saw that actually that person chose to become the wolf because their life was better that
Mm.
way
Yeah.
than as how they were treated as a man. And I sort of realized, his parents sort of realizes actually, that was a choice. It wasn't that the wolf overtook him, that he lost control. He actually chose that path. So Perrin doesn't have to choose that path. So we get that
Mm.
whole, he obviously develops this huge skill in the dream world, which we'll come on to a bit later because that's great when he meets Egwene in the dream world. Love that scene.
Mm.
And we get him, as I say, doing the trial with the White Cloaks where he's found guilty, but Morghese allows Galad to give the punishment,
Mm.
and he basically withholds it till after the final battle.
I thought that was well done.
Yeah, I thought that worked well. I think, and I liked the way the trial. I actually quite like the way the trial was done. I quite enjoyed Bayar just being
Mm.
an absolute fanatical a-hole
Yeah, absolutely.
throughout these books, but then Bornhold killing him to prevent him killing, or Bornhold's son killing him to prevent him killing Perrin was a really good scene.
Mm.
And I liked, Perrin realizing there's a trap, that someone's trying to form a trap here because his Asherman can't make gateways, and that's, we
Yeah.
find out it's because of the dream spike. So obviously trying something, and it's Grendel is basically creating a Trolloc army to hopefully crush him and presumably kill him.
Mm.
And they have the trial and they get this agreement, and then they go off in separate directions, and then Perrin realizes where this ambush was likely to take place, and then turns up, and the White Cloaks are there, and they're like, "Is he trying to ambush us?" And
Mm.
we have the whole the first of Mayenne basically just falling head over heels for Galad, and swooning like she's never swooned before.
Mm.
So she's like, you can't do this, you can't attack the White Cloaks. And let's be honest, like, Perrin is has been pretty upstanding about his morality throughout the series. He's very clear on where he stands on most things and what's right and what's wrong.
Mm.
And he's always doing the right thing. He's there to protect the White Cloaks because he knows they're going to be attacked. And guess what? They are attacked by a huge amount of Trollocs yet again. I mean, there's so many Trollocs now. Like, we went through a whole period of like 5 books where there was virtually no Trollocs whatsoever. And obviously they were just gathering into massive hordes to invade from the north, attack here, and we'll come on to later, attacking somewhere else as well, because they're attacking everywhere now. So obviously they were just all building up their forces. And, he saves Galad's life. And
Really like that whole
really
section.
Yeah, and there's a nice little bit of Perrin wit, which we don't see very often. Where he saves him and puts him on the horse to send him away, and he says, we're allies now. And he says, yeah, we'll stay close because I quite like the horse. Quite right. I'm quite fond of that horse. So I thought, and that all worked well. And like, Galad starts to see that everything isn't black and white, and that actually Perrin, yes, he has his flaws like any person, but he's generally on the right side. And I think Galad also knows that the White Cloaks, from his experiences, the White Cloaks aren't necessarily wholly all good apples within the ranks. So I think he's sort of becoming aware that actually there is a lot of grey within the world, and the final battle is probably the most important. And Perrin finally accepts that he's going to be a leader, as he stands up as a leader that he's been putting off for forever, since the Battle of the Two Rivers, where he was the leader. So what's that? 9 books?
Yeah, 9 books. I did really like. I really liked all the stuff with the White Cloak battle. I thought that worked really, really well. It kind of felt like almost like the conclusion of the book, but then we had like the whole section with Matt and the Tower of Genji. But that specific section of the book really, really worked for me. Big fan. And like you say, I especially liked the like relationship that built between Galad and Perrin, as like Galad's like whole thing is that he will do what is right, whether it is an awful thing that he doesn't want to do or not. Like he's very much like he's got his code and he almost like can't not do it.
Yeah.
But then you have Perrin, who's very much like, I will do what I think is right at all times. And I think that the way that they meshed was really interesting. I also liked his obviously the big thing for him for this book is the forging of the hammer. That was pretty cool.
That was very
really cool. Yeah. He has is it Grady? He gets like Grady. He's like, oh Grady, give me a bit of power in here to get the forge going. And then Grady's like, can please get some more Ashimad. Like,
yeah. So they started
happening.
doing circles as well, haven't they? He like Perrin's group started doing circles, so the Ashman and the Ice Staff started forming circles and obviously getting more power through that. But yeah, that was a great scene. And I forgot where he calls the axe, the hammer now.
Ma'alania.
Yeah,
which is named after Hopper, the one who jumps.
Yeah, and I just thought it was beautiful because obviously, you know, we'll come on to the dream bit and Hopper because obviously that's quite an epic moment. But yeah, that was such a scene. Like obviously a power forged weapon, and then we see him using it, and obviously that's going to play presumably a significant part in the coming battles as well, because not many have been made for a long time, and it's actually a power forged weapon because it's both, you know, the male and the female side of the force has been used to forge it. So you know, it's fabulous. I did really enjoy that. That was a really strong scene that I thoroughly enjoyed.
Yeah, really liked it, and I think the like Perrin obviously has the big moments in this book, like that moment and the battle with the White Cloaks, and like you say, like the joke about the horse was very funny. Overall, I think Perrin really brought it back in this book. Also, he kind of gets over and repairs his relationship with Fael, which I really liked because I felt like, you know, you whinge for 6 books to get her back and then like you kind of hate each other. So it was really good to actually see that relationship get repaired. So basically everything I wanted from Perrin happened in this book, and I'm struggling to see what the next book can give me.
This is what I'm fascinated because obviously, like we had like the Sean Chan talk about the Wolf King, which
I enjoyed that. Yeah, when he puts down the axe and he picks up the hammer, that was the sign.
Exactly, and we've got the shadow prophecy that Perrin will actually die or succumb. I can't exactly the phrasing of it. And you know all the stuff that happens in the Wolf Dream or Teleran Riod, because they're one and the same, which I sort of always assumed they were, but I don't know if that was sort of just something I assumed or whether we knew. I really enjoyed in Teleran Riod. I think, you know, the Wolf's Dream as a pup and teasing him was quite funny. Him trying to learn to gauge control, and that if you kill something in the Wolf Dream, that's it, it's dead forever. And him learning the control. Obviously, we've still got Slayer. I was nice to be reminded that it was Lord Luke because I'd completely forgotten about Lord Luke. So that was interesting, and obviously that how he is linked to Grendel as well, and the Forsaken. I'm still not entirely clear on that. His link to them, and who he actually is. Is he a dark friend with that power, or is he something more? I'm not sure. But obviously they have this huge battle. He's planting the dream spike in the dream world to prevent Perrin from escaping, and Perrin, Hopper, and a few others basically get in to the this dome. It's like dome wall that's created where the dream spike is, and they manage to pick it up, but they can't travel outside it, so he travels to the edge and keeps moving it and moving it and moving it and moving it until he gets to Tar Valon, and obviously then. At the same time, and we're going to jump into Egwene's story a little bit here, but at the same time, Egwene's fighting in the tower against Messana, the Forsaken.
I
Um,
really liked the Adon bit in that,
so there's
where
two
she's
bits I love
like,
that. The A down bit was great. Go on.
yeah, where she's just like, the Adon doesn't work anymore, and like Masana's mind breaks basically, like instantly, because like Egwene's just like, no, I'm too good at this.
Yeah,
Like you can't, don't come at
exactly.
me in a
She's,
blooming Teleron Riyadh.
she's so good. She's just like Dreamwalk, and she's like, yeah, the A down doesn't work here. And just drops away. It's like that's it. And yeah, then like you
Brilliant.
get like the main breaking, and then like they find I can't remember which episode it was now, just like babbling in her cell, by herself.
It's
But
just
what
a
I love,
brown, wasn't it?
yeah,
They've been
uh,
searching for her for ages, and she just turns out to be some random brown.
yeah, exactly. But then what I like slightly previous to that, there's a bit where um there's I started they're firing weaves at Perrin, who basically appears because he's
Mm.
been in a dream strike, and Perrin goes because he's like learned now to control the wolf dream, which time he just says, "But these weaves don't exist," and he just like fall away from it. It was like he's
Yeah,
untouchable. He's like, and Grace Lynn go, "The hell."
fantastic, so good.
Can't touch him at all with here, and it's nice because like it reminds Egwene that actually weaves take time, as like thought in Teleron Wheel is instantaneous. Like you can do things
Mm.
pretty much instantly. It's much quicker, and this is how the wise ones are quite really powerful. They may not be strong in the power, but they're strong in Teleron Wheel because they have the control of their own thoughts
Mm.
and the discipline to impact that, and that that helps then with the Adam. So, and then you think back to like Mogadine gets the Adam put on her in Teleron Wheel way back, and she's
Mm.
just that's it. She's done for, like, because she doesn't have that level of control. So it's nice to see that our heroes then have now gained a greater ability in Teleron Wheel than the Forsaken actually have.
Definitely, that worked really, really well.
Yeah. So, is there anything else for Perrin before we move on? Oh, and the last hunt is on, and all the
Yeah,
wolves are gathering at Dragon Mount. Sorry, in
that
preparation.
was cool. Just like them just being like, no, we're all going to be at Dragon Mount. I was like, that's quite a cool like image.
But this leads to like the Wolf King and the wolves and the final battle. What their part is to play
Mm.
in that battle. I'm quite excited to see. Um, do you have anything else for Perrin? I mean, I think this was one of his, other than probably two of his book. So the fourth book was probably my favorite book of his. And
I
quite
think
like the
this.
scene he had in the very weak Crossroads of Twilight. But this was a
Mm.
good book. He actually moved forward.
Yeah, I think this was a great Perrin book. I had a lot of fun with Perrin specifically in this book, and yeah, looking forward to seeing where we go from here with Perrin. I think there's some really good stuff
Yeah. And
kind of
Perrin
waiting.
actually, it's interesting because Perrin doesn't meet Rand,
No,
does he? He does meet pretty much all the other main characters in the book. Like
yeah,
he meets Matt very briefly. Um,
mm,
uh, he meets Egwene in the dream world, um, and he meets Elaine as well because he brings McKay's and that to him. So
mm,
he's met quite a few of the sort of. It's interesting how he's becoming more pivotal. He's been outside the loop for so long, doing his own little thing with Fael, that he's now coming back into the main structure.
yeah.
Where do you want to go
Yeah,
next?
let's have a look.
So
What
we've
was
got
on my list? Should we talk about Matt and the towers, or should we
the.
save that and chat about
Should we do? Should we
Egwene
do?
and Elaine
Should
first?
we do what Jordan and Sanderson always do and just leave it right to the end?
Great idea. Yeah. So let's talk about Egwene, and we did talk a little bit about Egwene earlier. And we'll do Egwene, then maybe Elaine afterwards. I really liked the Egwene and Rand chapter, like you were saying, where he comes to the tower, and there's very much a like there's kind of an unspoken from Rand going like, well, you can't stop me. Like, you can't stop me. I can leave whenever I want. Like, I really liked that, like, unspoken confidence from him.
Yeah.
It's just like he's holding more of the power than any human has ever held before. They can't put a shield up because he's too powerful. There's a
And
lot of really good stuff.
it's such a beauty when you think back of how fearful he was of a small group of Aes Sedai in
Mm,
previous books. Like, he was very thoughtful like that. No, you can't only have so many Aes Sedai. There can't be this many, And then he has the old experience of being put in a box and all that. And now he's like,
mm.
just walks into the White Tower and just like, yeah, well, you guys can't really touch me. So,
It's
but he's
like,
not,
yeah, try and stop me from leaving.
yeah, but he's not rude or abusive or like
No.
aggressive. He's just very, very calm, very controlled. This is what's
Mm,
happening, just letting you know. We'll meet here in however many on this date, and then I'll go and
yeah,
break the seals in Chargol, and then that's what's going to happen. But it's nice to
yeah,
see you. I'm going to head off now.
yeah. And everyone's like, no, you can't break the shield at Show Ghoul round. And he's like, well, I'm going to, so I'll see you there. I also really liked, I mean, we didn't touch on this, but like Perrin turning up at the end of the book, just like turning up and being like camping slightly away from everyone because he knows that they're not on Rand's side.
Yeah,
I was
and he's
like,
like,
this is good.
yeah, and Elaine's like, oh, I'm so glad you came.
And he's
I
like,
know, Gwen's like,
are you?
I didn't necessarily say I was going to be on that side. I'm really here for Rand.
Yeah. I thought
So
that was really well done.
yeah, but yeah, so like Egwene, obviously she had a massive, massive book last book,
Mm,
and and I think she has. I would say she doesn't have a huge amount. Like the main bit of this book really is hunting down Masana and Gawain, and her relationship with Gawain is probably the main two elements of this, and they're sort of linked. And then what I enjoyed about this book was that we all knew Masana was in it, but we knew as readers that the Sean Chan assassins also in the
mm.
tower, and obviously
That was good
nobody
stuff.
else did. And I quite enjoyed the fact that you know it's not been often in a series that I felt I've known more than what's going on to the characters. So it was nice in that point of view to go, actually, we know it's not. It's probably not
Mm,
Masana who's killing all these Aes Sedai off. It is probably the Sean Chan assassins that are still about. Um, and Darwin plays that critical role within that. And I didn't mind their relationship in this book. Like relationships is a weak point in this series, and I think most people would recognize that. But their relationship within that, and like Egwene, we start off with sort of going, when he first rescues her in the previous book, like doesn't
mm,
really believe she's the Armelin, she's a puppet, whatever else. We know full well she is fully the Armelin. She is in control and not only an incredible powerful Aes Sedai, but an incredible powerful political maneuverer as well, and able to
mm,
use all the Aes Sedai wilds to get what she needs to get done. And she proves it again with the Aes Sedai in the hall earlier in the book, where she's like, she gives them control over the war, the battle, and the forces,
that was
as long as
great.
they give her control to influence of how we manage the kings and the rulers. And they go, yeah, that's fine, that's fine. Like one of them goes, oh yeah, that's too late. She goes, oh God, Rand's a king. Like we've just
That
given
was
her
brilliant.
control over the Dragon Reborn. It's like it just shows like how much she's learned. Um,
Yeah.
it was so good. Again, it just reminded me to go back to like when she got them all to declare like war on Elida, and that gave her all the power then. So, but the relationship with Garwin is good, and like him coming to terms of who she is. That yes, she's Egwene, but she is the Armelin Sea, and there's a level of duty and responsibility and respect that she needs,
Mm,
as well as love, admiration, and protection. There's another element of that, and him coming to terms with that, of who he is, and his role within that relationship. Like he should be the first sword of Caemlyn for his sister, but actually he wants to be with Egwene. But she's pushing him away. He's not doing as she says. He blows her trap, which she thinks to catch Masana, but actually it's a Sean Chan assassin. And then he figures it out. And then eventually he comes back to the tower, knowing that Sean Chan assassin's there. And as he gets into a room and finds them about to kill her, and being the incredible swordsman he is, managed to kill off 3? Is it 3 Sean Chan assassins?
Yeah,
At least
I really liked learning about the Sean Chan assassins from the other side, because like we had known that about that going on, which I thought was good. And it was really interesting to see, like, I know you talked about it earlier, you know, like when we know more than the characters is fun, but I just liked seeing Gawain like figure it out.
Yeah.
Like,
and it worked. Like, we knew more, but actually what they didn't know, the decisions they made, didn't make sense. Like, we knew Masana was somewhere in the tower. We didn't know who she was hiding as, but we knew they've taken inside the tower, and therefore it made sense for them to be, you know, when Ice and I were being killed off one by one, obviously it makes sense for them to think it's Masana. But then, like, the way they were being killed off, you know, raised questions, and Gawain starts to ask these questions, and they're like, well, you know, and as you say, the way he finds out, and he goes back to Camelin at one point, and he meets some of the we see some of the Sean Chan, Damani and Suldams, who are trying to be trained out of indoctrination, shall we say, and struggling with that. But then we get more and more information on who these. What are they actually? Can you remember what they're actually called? They're not called assassins. They're
blood knives.
Blood knives. Yes, thank you. Well done. So,
I wasn't even looking at the wiki at that point.
Well done. I'm impressed.
I remembered it.
So yeah, and then I suppose at the end they come together, and we have like a Gareth Bryn Swan moment where, you know, she has to bond him to save him. He's like, only if you want to, and she does. But also, will you marry me?
Yeah, it was good.
So there's going to be a lot of weddings going on, but that's the at some point hopefully. So yeah, and I did enjoy the battle the Egwene set up against Masana, and how she's trying to trick them to attack her in Teleron Riod by sort of leaving messages, because she knew that Shiriam had stolen all the Terangrial to get the Dark Friends into the tower, into the Dream World, sorry. And that, I quite enjoyed that. And then obviously Perrin turning up in the mix of that was quite entertaining. But that whole battle was great. And obviously Masana gets turned into a gibbering wreck at the end of it, which is always satisfying for all of a second.
Absolutely. Yeah, big fan.
So is there anything else from Egwene? Obviously a lesser time in this book than the previous one, but
yeah.
Yeah, and when we're set up now, they're all waiting. Well, Rand's just arrived, doesn't he, in the field where like Egwene, and she's like rounded all the relative kings of various regions to say to Rand, don't break the seals, Rand. But I assume the Teviran will kick in, and that'll be that.
Hard to fight against the Dragon Reborn when he's also Teviran. He's also got
Perrin's there as well. Yeah, exactly.
Matt and his the Red Hand will turn up, I assume. But yeah, I guess we go one last person. Yeah, we'll do Elaine before we move on to. I mean, there is another character, which is Lan, and the Lan stuff is great.
If we do Elaine, and if we can touch on a couple of the other side characters, so Lan and Avienda.
Avienda's was fantastic. I can't.
And then we'll come to
earlier.
Or leave Matt for the grand finale, as we had to read 80% of the book before we got to Matt's tower. Anyway, so Elaine.
So she takes the Sun Throne. That's like the big thing in this book, isn't it? Like Rand's been saying it for months that he wants her to take the Sun Throne, and she's been doing some big politics stuff. And also, we get the funny interaction between her and Matt. I think that works really well. Like Matt's letter is very funny.
I enjoyed his letter, and I like the fact that he basically wrote it in like his typical Matt sort of manner, quite brash, and therefore I've forgotten Elaine's guy who's like a right hand man who does
Norrie.
Norrie, yeah, that sounds like Norrie, yeah. Who's in like, maybe I should bring this to you because I'm already sure. He says he knows you. I didn't bring you the last, like, he did leave a message last time, but I just thought it was one of the many mercenary camps out there. But this one seems quite personal. I don't know if it's true or not. And she's like, reads it and like, oh yeah, this is Matt. This is
I know this guy. I know this.
I know this. Yeah, exactly. I know this moron. So that was quite funny. And I think, like, with Elaine, what I find curious is obviously Min's had a viewing that her baby's been born healthy. And that's sort of in her head given her license to take ridiculous risks with her own life. She's like, well, I can't be touched because my baby's going to be born fine and healthy. And I'm like, yeah, but that doesn't mean that you're going to be fine and healthy. That doesn't mean you're not going to be like caged or tortured or whatever. Your babies will be born okay, but that doesn't mean that you're perfectly safe by any stretch of the imagination, or even that you'll survive the birth giving. You know, so or where they'll be born. It doesn't say that they'll be born and you'll still be queen at any point. And and I think Baguetta has some moments of like, you're just being an absolute idiot. So I'm curious to see how that pans out because, again, talking about prophecies and Min's viewings always turn out true, so that we know the babies will be born healthy. But what does that mean for Elaine and whether she survives that? Because she does some pretty ridiculous things. Like, she managed to convince Matt to give her the Fox medallion to Angriol in as part of a deal that she'll build Aludra's dragons. It was fine. And then she decides, she's made a few, but they don't work quite as well, but they work okay. And she decides to sort of go down to where she's holding the Black Sisters that she caught sort of in the previous book before that, anyway.
I think it's Knife of Dreams, isn't it?
Yeah, Knife of Dreams. And pretend to be one of the Forsaken within that, without Baguetta knowing. And that doesn't work that well. Like, initially it works.
Very well,
initially it works. And like, she learns that, like, they've got, like, there's more Dark Friends. They've got a plan. They're going to attack Camelin. There's a huge, there's going to be like a massive army going to turn up and attack Camelin shortly, and there's various other things she learns, and then it all rapidly falls apart when some other Dark Friends come to save them, and she manages to survive. Is it Mela, the Dark Friend who's like was her captain of the guards?
Yeah, Mela
escapes.
That guy sucks.
That guy does suck,
but in a funny way.
So I don't know how he plays out. But anyway, so he escapes. She survives. It doesn't really go very well. She learns a little bit, but it's not ideal. Then she's put to bed rest and back on goat's milk. She wants to see the dragons do their thing, so she gets her poor staff to basically carry her whole bed right up into the ramparts of the tallest tower, so she can watch the dragons work. And the dragons are pretty epic, I must admit. I do like the dragons.
Yeah.
Basically massive, like, cannonballs, exploding cannonballs that just destroy enemies. It's pretty effective. So that's all fine. And then what else have we got? Then she goes, she does that. She's got this. Then she obviously takes the sun throne in Karian by some bit of wheeling dealing and a bit of politics. And her mum
That
turns
was
up,
good.
which is
Yeah.
always nice to saw.
Yeah, it was nice to see them reconnect. The fact that it's taken almost 9 or 10 books is mad. But I do like seeing these characters reconnect.
Yeah, I do. I mean, the one great thing about this series is almost that it is so epic and so long and so much happens. It is nice when you get that moment where people reconnect and you can sort of, reminisce about the good old days of books 1 and 2. So yeah, I think that's
enough for Elaine, I
pretty
think.
much it.
I did read an interesting note the other day that Sanderson specifically talked about how he found it hard to write Egwene as pregnant because he was Elaine even so he said he found it hard to write her as pregnant because there are lots of things he wanted her to do, but he was like, I can't put a baby in danger. So that was interesting looking back at this book, having seen that, because it was in reference to another character in a different book. But yeah, I thought that was good.
Yeah, no, I think I like the Elaine, Baguetta, and Matt dynamic.
Yeah,
the dynamic
Matt
of
and
those three.
Baguetta work well together.
Yeah, so I do quite like that, and I'm curious to see how that. As I said, I'm curious to see what happens to Elaine going forward and how because obviously she's going to play a part, but what part does she play in this final battle? I don't know, because she is obviously quite heavily pregnant now as well, and her powers are hit and miss. Good days and bad days with the regard to the one power. So, but she does now hold 2 kingdoms by her own right. So she does have a significant force she can call to bear. So we shall see. We shall see what happens with her in the final book. So do you want to go on Lan?
Yeah, I think Lan has a great time in this book. Or not, he's not having a good time actually, but like I'm having a great time with Lan. I think he's genuinely really funny in this book. Like there's a lot going on. And I think specifically one of the things that I really liked was when he's like, okay, don't tell anyone we're from Malkia to like the first guy. And then he like wakes up and there's like 20 guys. And then he like wakes up the next day and there's like 1,000 guys. And he's like, why is everyone like turning up? I like genuinely very funny.
Yeah.
And the guy that's like, oh, I'm not do you think I can't wear the Hadori? That was a really good conversation. I really like that.
Yeah, I think the first scene, I think it's in the prologue where he gets his first follower, was so good. Like it was proper. Like I was listening to it because I did a mixture of listening and reading. I was listening to it and I had a proper lump in the throat moment of listening to that and going, "Oh man, this is epic! Like what's going on here?" I just thoroughly enjoyed it. And as you say, like as that grows, and he also feels because we have not touched on Nynaeve so very very quickly.
Yeah.
Nynaeve has quite a bit happening in this book. But the key elements. There's a lot that happens in this book. The key elements are Nynaeve basically takes the testing and becomes full Aes Sedai. The testing is absolutely brutal, more brutal than probably most Aes Sedai, any Aes Sedai has ever faced, but she managed to get through it, and by the skin of her teeth. But she does break like the calmness and not running and not using balefire to picture her enemies. And Nynaeve stands her ground, which I quite liked. I mean, not unexpected with Nynaeve for her to stand her ground and tell her what she thinks. But she's like, no, if I can do something to help somebody that's in need, I will do what I need to help, and screw the Aes Sedai, the ridiculous Aes Sedai rules that say,
that was really good.
All this. She's like, no, if people need help, we're going to help them. And that's it. and also that she will do what she needs to do to help Lan as well.
Mm.
And I think, you know, and then she goes and gets Lan's bond from Mirella. Mirella,
Yeah, that was
something like
great.
that.
Like the first thing she does,
Yeah,
she's
she's
like,
like,
I haven't taken the oath yet, so you better give me this blooming thing. I was like, yes, Nynaeve. That was very good.
yeah.
Enjoyed that a lot.
So, so yes, so and yes, the main thing that happens with Nynaeve. There might be something else, but that's the main thing that happens with Nynaeve. Back to Lan, and then Lan sort of realizes that the connection has changed, the feeling in his head changes, so he sort of realizes that Nynaeve is now holding his bond. And then I like the fact he gets to the like this gateway, and there's like this whole horde of like an army basically waiting for him. And he has this moment where he's going through, and then someone sort of calls out to him, and he's like, "Well, how did you recognize me?" He said, "Well, I didn't, but I recognized your horse because Nynaeve told me to look at, like, you know, you'd probably be in disguise, but you'd never leave your horse behind." Like,
Yeah,
oh,
brilliant. Really enjoyed that. Nynaeve very like outsmarting Lan.
yeah.
Very funny.
And then finally, almost like Perrin, finally he accepts leadership and raises the golden crane and marches to his death against hordes of Trollocs
Yeah.
at the gap. And we see him charging into the melee, and that's sort of where we leave him, which is either epic or tragic. I'm not sure, maybe both.
Yeah. I'm really excited to see what's going on with Lan in the next book. I feel like there's so much story for him, and I just want to see where we're going with it.
Oh, one more thing on Nynaeve. She can heal the madness in the Ashman.
Yes,
Takes out
that was
the
good.
little black spikes out of their brains and heals them. But she can't do it with Rand because his brain is an absolute mess.
Yeah, it's too far gone.
She's like, nope, can't touch that. I think that was it with her.
Yeah.
But Avienda is all by herself. But boy, does she have some good scenes.
I like the scene at the campfire with the
Nakomi.
Yeah. I
Who is
feel like
Nakomi?
no idea. Yeah. Something is happening there, isn't it? But
Yeah, I enjoyed that scene as well. Like, got her start questioning her. What is the purpose of the Aiel now, or will be? You know, now that the Dragon Reborn has come and they've sort of fulfilled their prophecy, what follows? And then she gets to Rhuidean. Obviously, Rhuidean is now this beautiful, lush oasis in the waste. And she goes through a test, which we don't really see because it's very, very straightforward because she knows it already because Rand's told them all what their past is. And then she has this moment where she goes, and she goes because she can, if she touches Terangriel, she can figure out what they do or instinctively knows roughly what they do. She's like, well, if I touch these like big pole things that are in Rhuidean, and but she feels like basically the immensity of the universe sort of sink through her. She's like, holy crap, that's a bit strong. And she still can't figure out. But then she walks through and she sees the future.
yeah.
And I thought that was probably one of my favorite scenes, if not my most favorite scene in the whole book.
Yeah, I really liked this section of the book, especially the future of the Aiel and sees how far they go wrong and how it's like her own kids that are maybe the big issue here. I really enjoyed that. I thought that was really well done.
It was beautifully done because we start sort of further into the future. So like the other way around, where we started in the past and we work further into the past. We start further in the future and work back closer and closer to now. And we see like far in the future, basically she's like gets this image of this like girl who's like starving and dying and trying to scrape her life, but no one will help her. And the Sean Chan are in control, and there's no hope. And basically, the idea of the dead and dying, and no one will help them.
Yeah.
And then we come back a bit closer and a bit closer and a bit closer. In time, we start to see like the simple decisions that make sense at the time that effectively, yeah, as you say, Avienda's descendants have made over time. So we see like her great grandchild or whatever it is, and then we see her children, and the decisions they make and how that progresses to their final state of decay, despair,
Mm.
destruction, elimination, from the incredibly proud race of warrior kin that they are now to, you know, paupers, beggars, trying to eke a living and having, in their view, no honor,
Mm.
or in her view, no honor, and the decisions that make it. And it was so well done. You see, like, glimpses of her children. You see, like, presumably Elaine's children as well, because you see a queen that isn't Elaine, with red hair on the throne. So, we've got that. We start to see their children as well and the decisions they're making, the interactions with him. And it all sort of feeds back eventually to the decision Rand makes
Mm.
after the final battle, which kind of suggests that Rand survives the final battle.
Yeah. There's
Um,
definitely something there, isn't there?
yeah, and how he keeps like there's some sort of peace that is sort of negotiated, but the Aiel sort of fall outside of it. They don't have a sort of set rule, but they're not to fight with the Sean Chan unless the Sean Chan attack them or something like that. And basically, Sean Chan sort of eventually will take over everything by the sound of the way
Mm.
Avienda's viewings go. And it was just fascinating when we think about how much we've talked about, G and To, and honor and respect and sort of the warrior caste that they are. And we
Mm.
know that, the fall that they've had from effectively, being tinkers and breaking their vows and becoming warrior caste to where they end up. But we know from the prophecy that that Rand will break them and destroy them. That is the prophecy. But to see that and see that through Avian's eyes was haunting and magnificent. And I thought it was probably quite possibly my favorite part of the book.
It was one of the most effective, absolutely.
So yeah, so I think that was Avienda. I think that
Are
other
we
than
on for
Matt,
Matt? Are we there?
I think so. I don't think I've got any other notes. We can pick up Tom when we talk about Matt because that's a
And
weird
Jane
one.
Fastrider.
Oh yes, and Noel/Jane, but we already knew that. Well,
yeah, I think we'd all guessed that very long time ago.
So yeah, Matt. So obviously Matt's with Elaine to beginning creating his weapons with the Ludra and all that. That's all fine. We have the bit with the golem.
Yeah,
I quite
that was
enjoyed.
great.
The golem comes after him, he escapes, and then he finally sets a trap for the golem using the kinswoman and creating like a gateway to like a skimming place. So the golem goes in and basically falls, presumably forever. Presumably he's not coming back. Can't be killed, but he can fall forever, which is quite a nice sort of solution to the problem. We can't kill him, but we can take him out of our world effectively. So that was I quite enjoyed that conclusion to how to deal with the golem, because obviously it was quite a presence, overbearing presence in Matt's life. But the key bit is Matt, Noel, and Tom finally, about 80% into the book, finally get to the Tower of Genji.
It's interesting because Big Eater sets it up that it's going to be an incredibly long thing. She's like, yeah, it took me like months. And then Matt basically
and then I died.
works out how to game it. Yeah.
I was there I had like 2 months of food. And when that ran out, I kept going for as long as I could. And then I died.
Yeah.
I didn't get out. It was like, that's like, oh, great. Thanks for that. That's a great pep talk, Brigitte. Thank you. Yeah, it does make it feel like a really long time. But they turn the tower, they draw their little triangle, they get in. And I enjoy the Elfin and Eorfin.
Mm.
I like the way he's pulled on sort of elvish folklore.
Yeah,
And because Iron
it's
is
like
like the
fairies
defense.
and fae, isn't it?
Yeah, and Iron is always like the defense against sort of the elvish kind. I've always been
Mm.
anti-Iron, and the nice play of like actually, what it reminded me of actually, a completely different book, the Terry Pratchett book from Discord called Lords and Ladies,
Oh
which
yeah.
again is about elves, and the elves in that and the Elfin and Elfin have very similar folkloric lineage.
Mm.
Then within their stories, where you've got Iron. Actually, they're not nice fairies. They're pretty evil going, and they sort of feed off the emotions of people
Mm.
as well. And I enjoyed the whole thing. And like, they get in, and Matt eventually resorts to just throwing his dice. Like, which way shall we go? I don't know. Let's
Mm.
trust to luck, because luck is the only thing that will help. And they sort of basically go backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. Like Tom's going, this is madness, but we keep going to new places. So let's continue.
Mm.
This makes no sense whatsoever. um, and then I love the bit where the I can't remember if it's the Elfin or the Elfin basically steal his dice, so he can't
Yeah,
use them. It's like, no, you're not using them. So then he basically just has to like close his eyes and spin around like an idiot, just go whichever direction. Their
that was
points.
good.
I just enjoyed that whole element. I like the darkness and them being sort of hounded and
The like game
attacked.
element of it was really
Yeah.
strong. You can tell that Sanderson is a big gamer.
And it worked so well. I thoroughly enjoyed that bit. And then he gets to like the bit where he can make a deal with them. And this is the bit where I now kind of can't wait to reread it and see what they said to
Mm.
him when they first met him. When they
Yeah,
answered these questions the first time, because obviously it all comes back now. But I really could go back and read it all again the first time, because there's so much that obviously passed us or passed me over. I'm assuming passed you over as well. That happened in that first lot of answering questions that come to reality in this one.
the half the light of the world stuff.
Yeah, Half-Life World. So they take away his eye, they rip his eye out, and I was like, that is epic and gruesome at the same time. Superb, loved it. And he sort of has to accept it. Like, it's not the end of the world for him, but they take his eye. And also like the whole thing about his little spear thing as well, because it never registered to me at any point why had they
Yeah.
given him the spear. Like,
No, I didn't even think about it.
no, it's like until like that moment when suddenly he was trying to escape. I was like, oh yeah, why how did this appear? Why did he have this? Like, we knew the Fox medallion, that made sense. Like, can be touched by the one power and all that, but it was like it had never crossed my mind to question why he'd got this spear, until he finally used it to escape, because it was the key to escape, which again goes back to what he'd asked for in the first time he met them, a way out.
Mm.
And we assumed, or I had assumed, that was him being hung. They sort of put him outside and hung him, but actually no, that wasn't the way out. The way out was the spear they'd given him. I thought the whole thing was great, and we obviously got Moraine. Moraine is now saved, but they've been sucking her power out. They've been feeding off her power. What do they call them? What do they call Matt? The succulent one, or the
Oh, I don't know.
something like that? There was something about him being quite tasty for them to feed off him. But anyway, I think it was about the Taviran element of him.
Right. Yeah.
But anyway, they sucked a lot of Moraine's power out, so she's not very powerful, but she has a triangular bracelet, which means she's roughly equivalent to what she was previously, maybe a bit more. And I thought the whole like Matt Noel and Noel takes the heroic step of clearing the path so others can escape and sacrificing himself and telling them that he dies clean. You can tell the Malchieri that he dies clean.
That was good. Like, tell the Malchieri. I was like, yes, the Malchieri are the best. I don't remember how Jane Fastrider is connected to the Malchieri. I'm sure it's been talked about.
I'm sure it'll come out. We'll
Somebody
figure it out.
say in the comments, if you're still watching over an hour in, just say down below why Jane Fastrider is talking about the Malchieri, because we can't remember.
We can't remember. Unless it's in the final book, and then don't say anything.
Yes.
And then, so that was Matt, and I thoroughly enjoyed Matt. There's one more thing on Matt before we come on to the really bizarre bit of the book that I didn't really understand.
Is that the bit where Tom says he's in love with
we'll come
Moray?
on to Tom, but yeah, exactly. We'll come on to that in a minute. But the Matt's letter from Verin, he doesn't open, and then Olva finds it and he's like, well, I deal with the post for that. Why isn't he giving me it? So he opens it anyway and then reads it. And basically Verin's like, I knew you couldn't resist opening it. By the way, a horde of Frolics are going to attack Camelin. There's a gate that you haven't found and they're going to attack Camelin. Talmanas gets a letter. He's like, oh crap. And looks at Camelin, it's basically on fire. He's like, oh, gather, everybody gather. And pulls the
I've got a lot of time for Talmanas, and he's got like one scene in every book, and each scene is funnier.
Nails it. Yeah, I think the last book, I think Talmanas was just brilliant. Like his interactions with Matt and his just like piss taking of Matt was superb, and I quite liked him in this book as well. So I think he is definitely a great book. But yeah, so like Fern got that one slightly wrong because Matt did have the patience not to open it, which is not ideal now. So yeah, so Camelin is now under attack, and Elaine's not there because presumably she's at the field to meet with Rand with most of her army. So that doesn't bode well for Camelin. So we'll see what happens there. But yes, Moraine and Tom. Thoughts?
It's interesting because the last time you see them on page together in Eye of the World, the last time that they have any interaction, he's like, I hate this woman because she's an Aes Sedai and I hate Aes Sedai. It seems like he's fallen in love with her via letter, which is weird. And I wonder if Jordan was like, look, Brandon, I've got really specific plans for Tom Marilyn. I didn't really get to do it. So please just pay it off.
Yeah, I didn't like it. If I'm honest. I felt I was very much like Matt in the book going, what the hell have I missed? This doesn't make sense. How did I not see this coming? Because as far as I was, there was no signs other than Tom reading the letter a lot. There was no signs before that, and I was like, why? Because in my head, like I was expecting at some point a Tom Morgaze reunion.
Yeah,
and now that Morgaze is married to Talonvor, that seems less likely. So this book was like, I don't understand Tom. Like, I saw no affection between him and Moraine in the very early books when they were actually together. I saw no affection for him and Moraine throughout the rest of the books. Like, he was with somebody else who got murdered in a pub way back in like book 4 or 5, whatever it was.
Deanna or something like that.
Wow, if that is right, that is incredibly pulled out of nowhere because I have no idea. I could not tell you what her name was.
I'm looking it up.
If it is, then that is very impressive, Sam. I am very impressed if it's anything close to that. So So it's like there's no connection. And then he was reading the letter a lot.
It was Dina, Dena.
Oh,
So I
I'll
was
give it to you.
one letter
I'll
away.
give that to you. That is an excellent pull. So but he had there was nothing. I'm confident there was nothing until he got the letter, and then he was reading the letter a lot. I was like, but he's just reading the letter a lot to get Matt to talk about it.
Mm,
But supposedly, no, he was falling in love with her through the letter. I assume. I don't know. It just again like the relationships forming in this series are weird. Generally,
mm,
occasionally they work. They're generally weird. Once they happen, they're generally okay. Once people are
mm,
together, actually the relationship is generally all right. But the actual forming of a relationship is very weird. And this is the most out of blue one that I was just like, I do not understand this one bit. I did not see this coming. And I love the
mm.
fact Matt was like, I don't understand. Like, I didn't see
I
this.
love
What the hell is going on?
that. Do you think that's editorializing from Sanderson, where he's like, "No, Robert, you didn't pay this off at all." Um, I
Yeah.
like, I like in book series like Wheel of Time when characters develop off page.
Yeah.
I feel like we don't see any like clues to that. Do you know what I mean?
Well, we have so few Tom viewpoints.
Mm,
And obviously we have no Moraine viewpoints because she dies.
yeah.
So there's limited opportunity for that to develop. Like, and it was just like I messaged you immediately. I was like, "What is this? I don't
What's going on with
understand."
this?
I've just been reading a different book. That was
Mm,
very, very weird. And I mean, we'll see what happens in the final book for Moraine, but
mm,
obviously she's going to play a part. And I'm curious about the bit I'm curious about now in the final book is obviously we know Kalandor is going to be used, or we assume Kalandor is going to be used. We
mm,
also are pretty sure that two women have to join with Rand in a circle to use it without its flaws.
mm,
And my assumption at the moment is Nynaeve is one of them
mm.
because of his trust. And
It's got to be the other one, right? What's
I
the
assume the other one is
Olivia? The
well,
one
this
that's
is
going to
my
help
this
him
so
die?
the other one. I have various other options. So we got the Olivia, whatever her name is. I've got Avienda, and I've got
Mm,
Moraine.
mm.
Are the three
Or
that in my
Egwene.
head that
Egwene.
have would Egwene possibly.
Mm,
I see a slightly. I don't know. Now that she's Armelin C and she's Aes Sedai, I don't know. Like I work on also like who does Rand. I know he's now all good and all happy, but who does he trust the most? And I think Nynaeve definitely. Like
mm,
he's probably his most trusted um, person now currently in the book, other than Min, but Min can't channel. Um, Avienda, again, they haven't really interacted recently. Like she's been staying away from him, so maybe not
mm.
Avienda. But then, what is her part to play?
Yeah,
But
I feel
also,
like she's got something to do.
yeah, because also she's going to have his children. Um,
Yeah.
so presumably they're going to get together at some point, unless again it's just magic and Taviran kicking in,
Mm,
immaculate
yeah.
conception and all that. Um,
Yeah.
the Moraine would make sense because again, I don't fully understand what her part to play is, but we know he trusts her because she does what she says she's going to do. And he didn't necessarily trust her previously, but now that she's been gone for a while, he's realized the benefit of her. So when she comes back, will that play in?
Yeah.
And Olivia, we know that she plays a part in him sort of fulfilling the destiny. But then from Avienda's viewpoint, from Reworld, does he die in the final battle? And if he doesn't, then how does Olivia play into him dying?
Yeah.
Uh, anyway, questions to be answered. As
In the
always,
next
in the
book.
final book, the last book,
Yeah.
which I'm very excited about. Uh,
It's
and
mad
I
that
don't
we've
know,
got
then has
here.
to, yeah, it is mad. It's been great. It has been great. Like, I'll be honest, the first book, I know you enjoyed. I wasn't 100% committed to the storyline, but It
I
has got
remember
really, really.
beginning we were like, we'll read the first book and then like maybe we'll commit to the trilogy, the first books. And in book one, I was like, I'm reading the whole series. I'm reading the whole thing.
Yeah, I think book 3 is probably the point. I was like, yeah, I can do the whole lot.
That hooked you, definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's one of the best ones.
It was superb. But yeah, but it's just so many like questions. Like I still try to see how everybody plays in. You know, what
Mm.
happens with Lan? Is Lan dead? Obviously, we got nothing from Loyal,
Yeah.
other
Not
than his
for a
very little bit,
while.
like that, like the very like the quote right at the beginning of this book
Mm.
is Loyal from Loyal's book. But how do the Ogier play into this? Do we get to see Loyal stand at the stump and give his oratory or not?
I feel like we have to.
Hopefully. I mean, we love Loyal. It'd be nice to have
Mm.
his moment of bringing his people together to fight in the final battle.
Yeah.
But yeah, how do we fight? Obviously, we're gonna like. My assumption is, and again, this probably won't happen for the first half of the book because
Mm.
why would it? But obviously, we're gonna have a meeting in this field with all the power players, and Rand's gonna go and break the seals,
Yeah.
and they're gonna say don't do it. But presumably, everyone's gonna come around to that at the end because he's Taviran, Perrin's on his side. He's also Taviran.
Mm.
He's also the Dragon Reborn and immensely powerful. So presumably he's going to string them somehow, mount
Mm.
him. Presumably they're going to Showgirl and break the seals. We didn't talk about the Black Tower. And there were
No.
some interesting scenes on the
There's
Black Tower.
yeah. I really
Um,
liked the point of view we had for that.
hmm,
The guy who was really good at gateways.
yep, but not good at anything else.
No.
Gateways and making leather garments. Because
Yeah.
he makes a wrist brace, doesn't he, for one of the Two Rivers bowmen who's there
Yeah.
as well. Um, so yeah, it was interesting to see that in division. Like, what is Mazrim Taim? Who is Mazrim Taim?
Yeah.
Really? What is his part to play in all this? And therefore, what is the Ashman split for
Mm.
Rand?
Is Mazarin time Moradin, which is kind of the theory we've had all along.
I mean, he's got in my head him being for some form of Forsaken.
I think that's
I
100%
don't see
certain.
how he fits in otherwise. Like, I struggle
Yeah.
to see how he fits into this story otherwise. And he's created a very powerful army for himself of,
Mm.
you know, male wielders of the power. We've got Logain still to come and his
Mm.
moment of glory. We've not had that moment where he's wearing a crown. And
I think there's only two male Forsaken left, right? There's Demandred and Moradin.
I don't know, but we had a lot like gender
Is
changes when people
Demandred
died and came
male?
back.
I can't remember if Demandred's male or not.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Who are the Forsaken who are left?
So
We've got so
it's
Grendale's still about,
Magian,
but she's
Grendel, Missana, Demandred,
well, yeah,
Sindane, and
Masana's not
Moradin.
really.
No,
Or,
doesn't count anymore. So there's 5 now left.
so
I don't feel like we've not really seen anything about Sindane. It's because Sindane is Lanfear.
like I say, isn't that Landfair?
Yeah. Much
So
cooler name, Sindane.
indeed.
It's a cool ass name.
So yeah, so I am immensely excited, incredibly
Me
curious
too.
about how this all ties together and how well or not it ties together. I'm presuming it does tie together very well because everyone loves the series, and if
Yeah.
it had a really crap ending, people wouldn't love it as much.
Yeah.
So I'm
We've all
assuming
seen
it's a
Game
very
of Thrones.
satisfying, exactly, a very satisfying conclusion to the series. But I'm just immensely curious how such a multitude of characters
How they can
play
all
into
get a
this.
good ending.
Yeah,
Yeah.
how does Sanderson, with Jordan's guidance, tie all these people together into what is a satisfying conclusion? I'll accept for the majority of people. I don't think we can get
Yeah.
everyone perfectly aligned, but in a conclusion
I
that
think we'll get
satisfies and
most of
meets.
the major
I expect
characters.
we will. I
I think
expect.
we'll
Oh
get
yeah,
like
all the
all the
major ones.
royals, all the generals. I
Yeah.
mean, I guess we've kind of had a lot of we've had some mini endings already. Like Perrin has had kind of a mini ending.
Yeah, but I'm
Swan and
assuming
Gareth
Perrin.
Bryn, Tom and Moraine.
Yeah, I think Swan, Gareth Bryn are probably tied up. I don't see them playing a major. Like Gareth Bryn will obviously be leading an
Has
army
had
of
his
some sort.
ending.
Yeah,
Gawain's kind of had his ending.
yeah. They're sort of linked in now with other major characters, so they'll be on their shoulders, their shadows. I think
Mm,
Perrin still have part to play as the Wolf King and all the wolves being in Dragonmount, him being that leader of
mm.
them. Um,
Taking the wolves to
but
battle since Demise, for the first time since Demise Wells.
yeah, exactly.
Mm,
So there's a lot to play. Like, I still don't understand how Elaine plays into this other than a political figure. Um,
mm.
do we get to see the births?
Yeah, I mean, it makes
Is that
sense,
how it
doesn't it?
ends? And we start to see the births and the next generation after the final battle? So many questions. Padon Fane and his
Yeah,
zombie Trollocs. Like, there's so much still to play up. Sam.
I
Uh,
feel like Egwene is going to give birth during the last battle. That's just my theory. That's my
ooh.
theory. That's the only big theory I have left.
And then
Because
what
my
does Sean?
theory
How
was
does
that
Sean
Moraine was
Chan?
alive.
I mean, we've not talked to Sean Chan at all. I mean, we get a little scene with Fortuna
No, there's
Tuon in
definitely,
this one.
yeah. I
But
mean,
how do
like
they play into all this? Like you mentioned
Rand's
about,
got a bow.
yeah, exactly, Bounty to Crystal Throne. How does that all tie in uh, to the future? Because we know from Avienda's viewings, that
Mm,
Tuon or Fortuna is not the Empress when Avienda's children are making their
mm,
decisions. Because they mentioned about the previous Empress being
like better, yeah.
reasonable or whatever, and this one not being. So presumably she's been replaced. Um,
Mm,
and what does that mean for Matt? Whose side is Matt on? I don't know.
mm. Does Matt, who makes it out of this book? Do all of the Emmons Fielders make it out? I
Well,
feel like
Perrin,
yes, but Perrin is the most at risk.
yeah,
His arc is finished.
I think Perrin is at risk. I think Elaine could be
Yeah,
because she's so reliant on this prophecy that her
the
children will be born
prophecy. Yeah.
healthy. It does, but we don't know whether she survives that.
Mm,
Um, I think Rand from Avienda's viewing survives.
yeah.
Avienda survives because she's got to have his kids.
Yeah.
Um, Egwene, we don't know, but I would lean to survive because most people survive.
Mm.
But I've got
Are also Avienda's visions
naive.
mutable? Like, are they
Mm,
infallible, or are
are they
they
like Min's
possible
viewings?
futures?
Yeah. Are they
Yeah.
the future or a future?
Yeah.
Yes. Good question. Good question. It could all be. It's not the same as
I'm.
Min's viewings that we have reliable
Mm,
evidence that they do come true. This is all a possibility, maybe.
yeah. I think
Absolutely.
that we will find out in the next book. I don't think Sanderson will leave anything on the table that he
I think
personally has set up.
I'm so excited. And then is this
Mm.
the book? Presumably, is you series? So we've got this like hugely long,
It's one of the
massive
longest
chapter
chapters in like fiction.
written
It's
history.
9 hours of audiobook. It's longer than um, the first Dresden Files book. Like the whole book is shorter than the last battle chapter. Something like 200 pages, but also like word count is more because it's very small font. And yeah, 9 hours of audiobook. I'm
Oh man,
excited.
I am excited. So when are you starting, Sam?
I'm reading a fantasy at the moment, and I was kind of thinking about going into something sci-fi next. But I'll have to see because I think I'll probably just end up reading it next. So I don't know when I'll start it, but my plan is to I mean, before the end of July, maybe. Depends how quickly
Yeah.
I read The Lost
So
War.
okay, you mean Lost War. Okay.
Yeah,
Where are we
really
now?
good so
22nd.
far, actually. I basically only heard one person talk about it, so I was like, maybe it's not that good. But they have quite good recommendations. So I was like, okay, I'll trust you. And then I had it on Kindle for 99p for years. Just picked it up and was like, oh, this is really good. So only 10% in, but a really good setup for the series.
Okay,
But
good.
yeah,
So end of July. So my plan is, at the moment I'm reading Men at Arms by Terry Pratchett, which I should finish in the next week or so. I'm listening to Dark Matter by Blake Crouch.
Oh, that's a great book.
Which I'll probably finish in the next couple of days. So I might, once I finish the audio on that, I might start the audio on The Memory of Light. And then I'm reading a non-fiction book as well at the same time, but that's like take a side step, that's fine.
Show off.
No, but you know how I read. Like I read at different points in the day. Like normally I have an audio book, a nighttime book, and a morning book. And they're all generally different genres, so I don't get confused.
Yeah, that is the sensible way to do it.
Yeah, I couldn't read like 3 fantasy books at the same time. That would be way too confusing. So I've got fantasy, sci-fi, and then non-fiction.
Yeah, my plan is to hopefully finish Memory of Light like early August, then go into the next Red Rising book, then Gardens of the Moon, and that will be like my August plan. It's just those 3 big books.
Wow, that's some chunky, meaty readings.
And then we can come back together and talk about Gardens of the Moon when you get to it as well.
That'll be exciting. And are you doing Self Pub September?
Yeah, I am. Yeah. So I don't know whether I might not read a Malazan in September and be like, this is literally just for Self Pub stuff, because we've skipped so many months on Wheel of Time now. We skipped like 4 or 5 months. I don't think anyone's like desperate for us to have a monthly episode. So if you're in the comments and you're desperate for us to have a monthly episode, what will probably happen is that we will read Gardens of the Moon at very different times, and that episode will still come out in September.
Are you giving away the secrets of the magic behind the video?
Yeah, the secrets behind the curtain, which is that I binge read everything, and it takes me like 1 to 2 weeks. And Matt spends the entire month reading the book. Probably has a much better experience.
That is true. Yeah, that's how it works. Yes, we will get there. Yeah, so Memory of Light, so August. Chat about. So you got that to look forward to. I'm very excited. And you're right, yeah. The last battle chapter is 190 pages on the hardback.
Oof. I don't have my paperback to hand; it's on the shelf, but I'm excited to crack that bad boy open. I think that's everything. We should probably end this video.
We should go to sleep because it's late now.
Yeah, it's for those of you who are not watching it live, which is 100% of you, because we're not live streaming this. We started recording slightly later than planned, and it's now 11:15. I really hope that you guys have enjoyed this episode and that you've enjoyed the series so far. Please chat with us in the comments. Let us know if you've been reading along with us. I'd love to find out. I'd love to hear your vibes for A Memory of Light. That would be really fun. And also, if you haven't subscribed, please do, because then you will know the instant that our spoiler discussion goes up. I think that we have talked about previously maybe actually doing A Memory of Light live, so we can take some questions and stuff like that. I'm also considering a reading vlog for just the last battle. I don't know whether that would be fun or not. I'm bad with reading vlogs because I literally, all my reading takes place in a single location, which is the sofa behind me, so it's extremely boring and unvaried, so I don't tend to do them, but maybe I will if people are interested. And then also, if you're really bored of us talking about Wheel of Time, you probably haven't watched this. However, we will be talking about an entirely new series. We'll be going on to Malazan, and I am planning, this is a very brave plan from me, to try and read at least book 1, no audio, only physical copy, no using the PDF guides, the podcasts. I'm going to try and go in like the original Malazan cavemen fans would have done, without the aids. And I will tell you guys in the reviews and spoiler discussions how well that goes for me.
That sounds good. Yeah, let's go with traditional.
Mm-hmm. But thanks again for watching, and thank you, Matt, for joining. And I will speak to you all on Friday. Goodbye.
Thank you very much. Bye.